Ever feel like you're totally killing it on those work calls, sounding like super professional, but then an office party rolls around and you suddenly have no idea what to say.
Oh, yeah.
Like all your English skills have just vanished. Like, poof, gone.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. You're not alone.
We've all been there.
Welcome to Podcast Listen and Learn English, brought to you by Speakeasy English.
Yes.
I'm George, your host for this deep dive.
Hi, everyone.
And with me today is Diana, our expert on all things English.
It's great to be here.
So today we're tackling a topic that's close to all of our hearts.
Okay.
Mastering casual English conversations at those sometimes dreaded work events.
Right.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
Trying to make small talk while juggling a plate of appetizers and a lukewarm drink.
Yep.
But these casual interactions, they're actually super important. They're your chance to build relationships with colleagues, feel more comfortable in your workplace, and just be a part of the team.
Absolutely. It's so important to be able to connect with your colleagues on a personal level.
Yeah.
But it's easier said than done, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
There's something about these casual settings that can make even the most confident English speaker feel a little,
Lost.
yeah, lost, a little awkward, maybe a little out of their depth.
Totally.
Yeah.
So what makes these casual conversations so much harder than those structured meetings or presentations we nail every day?
Well, for starters, they're unpredictable.
Okay.
Unlike a work call where you have a clear agenda and specific vocabulary, casual chats can jump from topic to topic faster than you can say water cooler.
Right. It's like conversational whiplash.
Yeah, 1 minute you're discussing the latest project deadlines, the next you're debating the best pizza toppings.
Oh, totally. And it's not just the topic shifts, it's the language itself. Suddenly, everyone's throwing around slang idioms and those little colloquialisms that feel like a secret code you never got the key to.
It's like a whole different language sometimes.
Right. Like you're nodding along, pretending to understand when someone says, let's circle back later, or think outside the box. But inside, you're frantically searching your mental dictionary.
Exactly. And let's not forget the fear factor.
Oh, the fear factor.
When you're not confident in your language skills, the pressure to perform, to not make a mistake, can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
You start overthinking every word, every sentence. And that's when the awkward silences and the dreaded deer in the headlights look sets in.
You know, that's a really good point. We put so much pressure on ourselves to get it right that we forget the whole point of casual conversation is to connect with people.
Right.
And sometimes those imperfections, those little stumbles, they're what make us more relatable and human.
Absolutely. And this fear of making mistakes can be even more pronounced for non-native speakers who might already be navigating cultural differences and trying to decipher those unwritten rules of social etiquette.
For sure.
Like what's considered funny or appropriate in one culture might be completely different in another.
Right. Yeah. It's like a whole other layer of complexity.
Right.
Before we move on to the actual tips and tricks, I'd love to remind everyone to like, share, and subscribe to Podcast Listen and Learn English, brought to you by Speakeasy English. And let us know in the comments what your biggest challenges are with casual English. We put a lot of time and effort into researching and creating these deep dives, and your feedback helps us make them even better.
Yes. We really appreciate your feedback. And don't forget to tell us what topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes.
All right, so we've talked about the challenges, the
Yeah.
unpredictability, the slang, the fear, the cultural nuances. But don't worry, it's not all doom and gloom.
No, not at all.
We've got some practical strategies coming up that'll have you navigating these casual conversations like a pro in no time.
Okay.
But first, let's get a little more specific. What are some common situations we might find ourselves in at these work events
Well, I know this one.
that send our anxiety levels through the roof?
So many. Well, imagine this. You walk into the company holiday party, decked out in your best festive sweater, and bam, you're face-to-face with the CEO, someone you've only ever seen in those formal all-hands meetings. Talk about pressure.
Oh, yeah. The CEO encounter, it's like a boss battle in the game of office small talk. And it's not just the CEO, right? It could be any higher up, a new colleague from a different department.
Right.
Or even that group of coworkers who always seem to be in on some inside joke you've never quite understood.
Exactly. And in those moments, it's easy to get caught up in the, panic.
Oh, yeah.
But here's the thing. You don't need to have a perfectly witty opening line or an encyclopedic knowledge of current events to make a good impression. Sometimes the simplest approach is the best.
So, like, walk up to them and say, "Hi, I'm George. Nice to meet you."
Exactly. A simple introduction can go a long way. And don't underestimate the power of a genuine smile and good eye contact. It shows you're approachable and interested in connecting. You could even add a little something about the event itself, like, "This is a great turnout, isn't it?" Or, "The food looks amazing."
Okay, so we've tackled the initial introduction, but what about those times when you're trying to join an ongoing conversation?
Oh, yeah.
It's always so awkward hovering on the outskirts, trying to figure out if it's okay to jump in.
I know exactly what you mean. It's that whole "am I interrupting something important" dilemma.
Yes.
But here's a little trick. Instead of just standing there silently, try making a comment or asking a question related to what they're already talking about.
So like eavesdrop a little and then find a way to connect.
Precisely. For example, if you overhear them discussing a recent movie release, you could say something like, "Oh, I heard that movie was great. Is it worth watching?" Or, "Have you seen the director's other films?" It shows you're engaged and gives them an opening to include you in the conversation.
That's a great tip. I'm
Yeah.
definitely going to try that.
Well,
Now let's talk about the dreaded small talk.
Right.
Those seemingly innocent questions like, how was your weekend? Or what are you working on these days? Can sometimes feel like the most difficult to answer.
I agree. And it's interesting because research actually shows that small talk plays a crucial role in building relationships and fostering trust. It's those seemingly insignificant conversations about the weather, traffic, or weekend plans that lay the foundation for deeper connections.
That's fascinating. So it's not just about filling the silence, it's actually serving a purpose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when it comes to small talk, the key is to keep it light, positive, and engaging. Instead of just saying, "My weekend was fine," try sharing a quick anecdote or a highlight from your weekend. It could be as simple as, "I tried this amazing new bakery downtown," or, "I finally finished that book I've been reading."
Okay. I like that. It gives the other person something to latch onto,
Yeah.
potential springboard for further conversation. And what about those times when someone throws in a pop culture reference you totally don't get? Like they're
Yeah.
talking about some new show everyone's binge watching, and you're just sitting there nodding along, pretending you know what they're talking about.
Oh, that's a classic.
Hmm.
And it's perfectly okay to admit you're not familiar with something. In fact, it can be a great opportunity to learn something new and show that you're curious.
So instead of faking it,
Yeah.
just own it.
Exactly. You could say something like, "I haven't seen that show yet. What's it about? I'm always looking for new recommendations." It shows you're open to learning and invites them to share their enthusiasm with you.
I love that. It turns a potentially awkward moment into a chance to connect.
Ah.
Before we move on to some more in-depth strategies, I want to quickly remind everyone that Podcast Listen and Learn English is brought to you by Speakeasy English. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, leave us a comment, tell us about a time you rocked a casual conversation in English. We'd love to hear your success stories.
Absolutely. We love reading your comments and hearing about your experiences. And if you're enjoying this episode, don't forget to share it with your friends who are also working on their English skills.
Now let's dive into the good stuff. Actionable strategies you can use to take your casual English conversations to the next level. Diana, what are some of your top tips?
One of the most effective strategies is what I call the phrasebook power-up. It's all about having a handful of go-to phrases that can help you navigate different conversational situations.
Okay.
Think of it like having a toolbox filled with versatile tools that you can use to build and maintain a conversation.
I love that analogy. So what kind of tools should we be adding to our conversational toolbox?
Well, for starters, you want phrases that can help you express interest and keep the conversation flowing. Things like, "That sounds interesting. Tell me more." Or, "I've always wanted to try that." Or even a simple, "Really, that's cool." These phrases show that you're engaged and encourage the other person to keep talking.
It's like giving those little verbal nods that let the other person know you're with them.
Exactly.
And it takes the pressure off us to come up with something super clever or witty to say.
Right. Another useful category of phrases is those that help you ask open-ended questions. Instead of asking yes or no questions that can lead to dead ends, try using phrases like, "What's been your favorite part of the event so far?" Or, "What are you most looking forward to in the new year?" These types of questions invite the other person to share more about themselves, which can lead to a more engaging and interesting conversation.
It's like turning a simple question into an invitation for a deeper conversation.
Exactly.
And speaking of engaging, active listening is another crucial skill that can make a huge difference in your casual conversations.
Absolutely. Active listening is all about showing the other person that you're truly present and interested in what they have to say. It's about going beyond just hearing the words and actually absorbing and responding to the message.
So how do we become better active listeners? It feels a little abstract.
Well, It's all about those nonverbal cues and small verbal affirmations. Things like making eye contact, nodding your head, and using those little phrases we talked about earlier, like really or that's interesting. These subtle signals show that you're paying attention and make the other person feel heard and validated.
It's like those little breadcrumbs that show you're following the trail of the conversation.
Yeah.
And it prevents those awkward moments where you realize you've completely zoned out
Uh-huh.
and have no idea what the other person's talking about.
Exactly. Another technique you can use is paraphrasing.
Okay.
After someone has shared something, try summarizing what they said in your own words. This shows that you're not just passively listening, but actively processing the information. You could say something like, "So you're saying that," or "if I understand correctly."
It's a great way to make sure you're on the same page
Right.
and clarify any misunderstandings. Now, what about those times when you need to gracefully exit a conversation?
Oh, yeah.
It could be so awkward trying to find a polite way to break away without seeming rude.
I agree. It's a delicate dance. But there are a few go-to phrases that can help you make a smooth exit. For example, you could say something like, "It's been great talking to you, but I promised myself I'd grab some food before the buffet closes," or "I see someone I need to catch up with, but let's chat again soon."
Those are perfect. They give you a legitimate reason to leave without making it seem like you're just trying to escape the conversation.
Yeah.
Now, before we wrap up, let's talk about practice. How can our listeners take all this great advice and actually put it into action?
Well, one of the best ways to improve your casual English is to immerse yourself in real-life conversations. Now, I know that can be intimidating, but it doesn't have to be a sink or swim situation. Start small. Strike up conversations with colleagues in the break room. Chat with the barista at your local coffee shop, or even practice with friends or family members who speak English.
And there are so many resources available online, too. You can watch movies and TV shows, listen to podcasts, or even find online language exchange partners to practice with.
Absolutely. And don't forget the power of journaling.
Yeah.
At the end of each day, take a few minutes to write down some of the conversations you had in English. It's a great way to reflect on what went well, identify areas where you can improve, and just get more comfortable with the flow of casual conversation.
It's like giving yourself a little debrief after each mission in the field.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to make mistakes. Remember, mistakes are a natural part of the learning process. The more you practice, the more confident and fluent you'll become. And who knows? You might even surprise yourself with how much you enjoy those casual conversations that used to make you nervous.
That's what it's all about, right? Feeling comfortable and confident enough to connect with people and build those genuine relationships. We've covered a lot of ground today, but the key takeaway is this. Mastering casual English is a journey, not a destination. It takes time, effort, and a willingness to step outside your comfort zone. But the rewards are worth it.
I couldn't agree more. So the next time you find yourself at a work event, take a deep breath, channel your inner English superhero, and remember all the amazing tools and strategies we've talked about today. You've got this.
And if you're looking for more tips and tricks to boost your English skills, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Podcast Listen and Learn English, brought to you by Speakeasy English. We're here to support you every step of the way.
And as always, we love hearing from you, so drop us a comment below and let us know what you thought of this deep dive. What are your biggest challenges with casual English? What topics would you like us to cover in future deep dives?
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of casual English conversations. Keep practicing, keep learning, and remember, every conversation is an opportunity to connect, to learn, and to grow. Until next time.